Hello, friends, and welcome back to our homestead. About 8 weeks ago, I made a tincture, which was part one of lion's mane. We foraged for wild harvested lion's mane and actually on our own property. We harvested, we brought it home, and I made a video about how to make a first step of extraction using alcohol, because lion's mane, like any other mushroom, should be extracted in a dual process with alcohol to extract alcohol-based properties, but also requires to be extracted through water to pull out those water-soluble properties, because let's face it, alcohol can do one thing and water does something else. So we want this to be fully rounded, rich product for ourselves. So that's why we need alcohol extraction and water extraction. So for some reason, many people are afraid of this step. They're afraid of the dual extraction process because I think that sometimes it's overcomplicated, and we should not overcomplicate it. It's actually quite simple. So today I'm going to show you a very simple method of how now do the second step of water extraction. So we're going to need a few things. Well, obviously this is my tincture itself that we're going to be straining, right? That was sitting doing its maceration. One thing that I want to note is that the first week after I made it, I was shaking it every day, mixing it back and forth every day. Then after that, I was mixing it maybe a couple of times a week, just turning the jar back and forth. And it was sitting in a dark closet. However, a few days before today, I made sure that I did not shake it because we want it to be as clear as possible. Okay, then we're going to be needing a sieve of some sort, a measurement cup, okay, a press, or if you don't have a press, a cheesecloth will work just fine. You're going to be using your hands to squeeze everything. But I have this funky press, okay? Then normally you will see people do the water extraction by hot water, right? On a stove in a pot. But on a stove in a pot, it's very difficult to control the temperature because we don't want this to be boiled. We want it to be hot, slow and steady, but not really boiling and evaporating. And in order to avoid evaporation, I'm going to use my method of using a crock pot. And I'll show you that method. Crock pot is what we're going to be doing. What else? Like I said, a measurement, a cup. I'm going to need a sieve. I'm going to need a spoon. And I'm going to need some sort of a vessel where everything is going to be cooking actually. All right, so let's get this show on the road. Dual extraction, it's fun. Okay, so let's strain everything right out, and it's going to be done into a measurement cup. Why? Because I need to know how much liquid I ended up having here. Okay, it's very important that I squeeze everything out. So I know, so right now in here I have almost 2 cups, which is almost 500 mLs, but not quite, but 450 right now. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna put my press into a plate and get all of this mushroom pieces into here. Why? Because it's going to be important for me to squeeze everything out of it. Okay, and like I said, it's possible just to go ahead and use your cheesecloth. Okay, you can use your cheesecloth and just squeeze everything with your hands, but I'm going to use this press because why not? I have it. I like to use it. It's fun to use it. So I'm just going to squeeze everything right out of it. Do you see all this stuff still coming out? Look at that. It's going to be important that all of this stuff is out. So I'm just squeezing it all out. All right. So all of this stuff is out. Okay. And it's going to go into my measurement cup because I need to know how much total of this liquid I have in here. Let me see. Yep, a little bit over 550. Let me look on this side. It's better this side. All right, I have 500. All right, so I'm going to put it into my mason jar. Okay, it's going into the mason jar. And now, my friends, I need to measure out the same amount. Let me put it aside. I need to measure out the same amount of clean water. Okay, so since we have 500 milliliters of the alcohol, we have to put the same amount of water. Very simple math. So I have some hot water here. It's not boiling, just hot. And I'm going to put the same amount, which is 500 milliliters. Okay, so let me double check. Yep, 500 milliliters. And we need to now cook it. But cooking is not going to be boiling. You can bring it up to a high temperature and then make sure it's simmering on a very low temperature, constant simmering. So what I'm going to be doing, instead of putting this on the pot, I'm going to put all of this remaining mushroom, right, that we had extracted, I'm going to put back into a glass container, glass heat safe container. All right, let me take this out. Takes me a second. Okay, everything goes in here. All right, should I grab a spoon? Let me grab a spoon. Okay, I have to put everything back here because it's going to be extracted now with hot water. Okay, all the pieces are here. All the pieces are here. Okay, so and now I'm going to be putting that hot water over these mushrooms. Okay. And guess what? I'm going to put it in the crock pot. I have a crock pot right here. Okay. The reason why I don't like to do it on the stove. So I'm going to put this whole container in a crock pot, and it's important that it gets covered. So I'm going to use a glass plate to put right over so it's not evaporating. And I'm going to pour a couple of inches of water around this pot. And it's going to be just like a double boiler type of thing. And I'm putting a cover on. I'm going to make sure that it comes to high temperatures and cooks in here for the next 6 to 8 hours. And this is, let me see if it's on high right now, but as soon as I see the water around coming to boil, I'm going to turn it down to simmer. And now it's going to simmer in this double boiler right here in my crock pot for the next 6 to 8 hours. Now, it's not going to evaporate because it is in the moist environment. It's covered. It's not going to be evaporating to the air, and it's going to allow slow extraction of those medicinal polysaccharides right into the water. I've seen other people attempt to do the water extraction by doing it on the stove, but unfortunately with that, you lose a lot of moisture. And we want to maintain 1-to-1 ratio without adding any extra water. And we want to have that 1-to-1 ratio because with that, it's going to give me the safe amount of alcohol for a tincture to be shelf stable. A tincture has to be at least 20 to 25% alcohol in order to be shelf stable. But this is Everclear, so it has a whole lot more alcohol. So, all right. So the first step is done. It did it. Alcohol extraction, it's all done. Now it's doing water extraction the next 6 to 8 hours. As soon as I see some bubbling in the water bath, I'm going to turn it down low to simmer and let it slowly do its thing. And then at the end, I'm going to show you how I'm going to mix everything together and make a dual extraction lion's mane tincture. Okay, about 8 hours later, and actually I allowed this crock pot to cool off a couple of more hours. Now it's time to check to see what came out of this liquid. And I just hope that it did not evaporate too much. Well, it doesn't look too bad, and it has a nice and rich brownish color. So let's strain all of that. okay, into a measuring cup and see how much I have in there. And then we're going to squeeze all of these remaining mushroom liquid with the press. But the cheesecloth will work just fine as well if you squeeze the cheesecloth. All right, let's take a look. All right, I can definitely tell that we lost some liquid. Okay, well, let's strain all of this into the press and see what happens. All right, I'm gonna use my fancy press here. All right, let me put all that in here and use the press, because I'm sure I'll get more liquid once I squeeze the mushroom itself. Okay. All right. So what I'm really hoping that it's 1-to-1, but I have a strong feeling that despite my method of using crock pot and low and slow, I think I lost some liquid regardless. Okay, let's see. Yeah, all right, so let all this liquid come off in through the strainer. All right, I think that's it. Let's strain all of that in here. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, definitely lost. I remember putting in 500 milliliters in here, which is 2 cups. I've got, let me see, a little bit under 400. Well, it is what it is. So I decided not to add any extra water. I know other people do. I will not. So now I'm going to be mixing it with the alcohol extraction. Remember, this is Everclear. And if I remember this correctly, we should see magic. Watch this. Yes, look at that. It's turning into this cloudy, murky looking liquid. It's almost like whitish liquid. All right. So the tincture, my friends, of dual extraction is done. It's completed. So let me just mix everything together. It's making this chemical reaction. It's turning white, milky substance now mixed with the extraction from Everclear from this mushroom. All right. I don't know if you can guys see that on a screen, but it definitely turned this very milky looking thing. Okay. So now, now this is safe to be stored on a shelf because it has still a lot of alcohol in it. Obviously, I didn't do the mathematical formula to see how much alcohol I have versus how much water, but I can tell you it's still a lot of alcohol. Remember, this was Everclear, very high proof alcohol. Now, this tincture has to be stored in a dark place. Obviously, I have to label it. And when we use it, it's going to be in a dark amber color glass, okay? That's how it's really going to be stored in. So let me just pour a little bit in here, okay? Because we're going to be using it with a dropper. It needs to be safe from the sunlight. So I'm just going to pour some in here. That's it. I'm making a mess. All right, it's important that everything is labeled so I will know exactly what's in here. And this tincture is ready to be used, okay? And like I said, it needs to be used in droppers. Lion's mane tincture, dual extraction, has so many benefits. And if you just go and start searching for lion's mane medicinal benefits, you're going to find lots of recent research that has so many promising information. So one of them is that, like I mentioned in my first video, it has the regenerative properties of restoring and actually growing new nerve cells. And I think that's fantastic. So it helps to improve in memory, in focus, in concentration and clarity, but also overall it has benefits in cognitive health. And I think that's fantastic. So dementia, elderly clients, and let's face it, menopausal brain, it's my friend. So How much to use and how to use it? Well, where's my water here left over? So there are many different ways of using it. One of them is you can literally take a dropper full, and it's going to come like once you squeeze it and put it in, it's going to fill up halfway up. See, it filled up halfway up. And I'm going to put it literally under my tongue right now. It's a little strong. I chased it with a little bit of water. I had lemon in here. And I allowed it to sit under my tongue just for a few seconds, because we have a lot of blood vessels under the tongue where the absorption begins to take place. Okay, so that's how I'm going to take it. Now, this is not a medical advice. This is not diagnostics. This is not prescriptive video, none of that. Okay, I want you guys to do your own research. We should be in charge of our own health, really. And we should be doing research. We should be taking care of ourselves the best we can. In my case, I have now this beautiful tincture that's going to last me a long time. How long do tinctures last? It's, one of those debatable questions. And my tinctures last me several years. I just finished the tincture that I made back in 2019. Now, that's 6 years ago. And I just finished taking it. So now I'm going to be making a new batch. Okay. So, but what I'm saying is that they do last a long time. Why? Because such a high quantity of alcohol is in the tincture, especially if you're using Everclear. On this note, friends, I hope you are encouraged to learn more about lion's mane and the health benefits that it has. By the way, just besides the cognitive and nerve cell health, it also has support for the immune system as well. So lion's mane has many wonderful qualities. So friends, I hope you are encouraged. I hope you're encouraged and say, just because somebody gave you a scary diagnosis doesn't mean that it's the end. There's a way to look into it, try different things. Okay. So this is something that I'm going to try to help me with the focus, with memory, and overall clarity. On this note, friends, be encouraged and try something new.